My family offered me to a mafia boss as a replacement for my dead cousin, but my cousin wasn't dead at all. Soren Vale had never been the one people chose first. That place had always belonged to his cousin Lucian. Lucian with the perfect smile. Lucian with the expensive suits, soft lies, and cruel eyes no one ever seemed to notice. Lucian, the golden son of the Vale family. The one everyone defended, admired, and forgave. Even when he broke hearts. Even when he ruined lives. Even when he looked at people as if they only existed to decorate his path. People still loved him. Soren had spent his whole life standing half a step behind that light. So when Lucian was promised in marriage to Raphael de Luca, the cold and terrifying heir of one of the strongest mafia families in the city, no one was surprised. It made perfect sense. One powerful family offering its finest jewel to another. A beautiful alliance wrapped in silk and blood. Then Lucian died. At least that was what everyone said. His car went over a bridge on a rain-soaked night. The river took the wreckage. The body was never properly found. There was a funeral without a coffin, black flowers, fake tears, and enough public grief to satisfy the city. For 3 months, the Vale family mourned their golden son. And for 3 months, their debts grew sharper, their enemies bolder, and their fear uglier. Then one evening, Soren was summoned to the family estate. He found his aunt sitting in the drawing room with a velvet box on her lap. His uncle stood by the window with a drink in his hand. No one asked him to sit. That was how he knew it was going to be bad. His aunt opened the box. Inside lay a white gold ring. Lucian's ring. Soren stared at it for a moment before lifting his eyes. No. His uncle turned from the window slowly. This is not a request. Soren laughed once softly, because sometimes laughter was the only thing standing between a man and fury. You buried him 3 months ago. We buried the scandal, his uncle said, not the agreement. The room went still. Soren looked from one face to another and saw no shame there. Only calculation, only survival. You can't mean this. His aunt finally spoke. Raphael de Luca will not accept weakness. The alliance still has to stand. So send an apology, Soren said. Send money. Send one of your actual sons. We are sending blood, his uncle said coldly. That is enough. No, that wasn't true. If they had anyone else to spend, they would have spent them instead. They had chosen Soren because no one would go to war for him. His aunt rose and stepped closer, holding the ring in front of him like a sentence. You have his eyes from a distance. Soren looked at her then, really looked at her, and realized with a kind of exhausted horror that she believed this was mercy. That sending him to a man like Raphael was somehow better than watching the family fall. Lucian had always escaped consequences. Soren had simply inherited them. The wedding was private. That somehow made it worse. No cathedral, no guests beyond a handful of family witnesses, armed men, and the priest, who wisely never looked anyone in the eye. Just a marble hall in the De Luca estate, white candles burning against dark stone, and Soren dressed in silk that had been tailored for another man. He felt wrong in it, like a lie given a pulse. At the far end of the hall stood Raphael de Luca. Soren had seen photographs before. None of them had prepared him for the reality of the man. Raphael wasn't beautiful in the easy way Lucian had been. He was sharper than that, severe, controlled, dressed entirely in black, with the kind of stillness that made everyone around him seem temporary. He watched Soren approach without expression. The ceremony was short, vows spoken like terms in a contract, promises with knives hidden inside them. The ceremony was short, vows spoken like terms in a contract, promises with knives hidden inside them. When it ended, Soren thought, briefly, foolishly, that perhaps Raphael would at least preserve the dignity of silence. Instead, as the witnesses dispersed, Raphael stepped forward, slid 2 fingers under Soren's chin, and lifted his face. His touch was cool, firm, possessive already. You're not Lucian, he said. It was the first honest thing anyone had said all day. No, Soren replied. I'm not. Raphael's dark eyes moved over his face, unreadable. And yet they sent you. Soren swallowed. Apparently, a pause. Then Raphael's mouth curved, but there was no warmth in it. If they sent you in his place, he said softly, then you'll stay in his place. Something cold traveled down Soren's spine. That night, he was taken not to a guest room, but to the suite that had been prepared for Lucian months ago. Nothing in it belonged to Soren. Not the tailored shirts waiting in the wardrobe, not the silver watch on the dresser, not the glass decanter of whiskey, not the white flowers arranged beside the bed. Every object felt like it had been chosen for a ghost. Raphael entered a few minutes later. Soren was standing by the window, staring out at the dark gardens. He did not turn around when the door shut. You could at least pretend to be comfortable, Raphael said, Soren looked at the reflection of him in the glass. You could at least pretend this is normal. Raphael loosened his cufflinks. Normal is a luxury neither of us has. Soren let out a breath. Then let me make one thing clear. I'm here because my family pushed me into this. I didn't ask for your house, your name, or his place. No, Raphael said. You inherited all three. Soren turned then. Do you enjoy this? Raphael tilted his head. Enjoy what? Watching me wear another man's life. Raphael stepped closer, unhurried, until only a small space remained between them. No, he said. If I enjoyed it, I'd be smiling. His gaze dropped to Lucian's ring on Soren's finger. That ring looked better on the man it was chosen for, Raphael said. The words struck like a slap. Soren's face went still. Then take it off. Raphael looked up at him. No. Why? Because now it's yours. That doesn't make it mine. Raphael's expression sharpened. Something dangerous slipping beneath the surface. You're in my house, carrying my family's alliance on your hand. Don't argue ownership with me tonight. Soren hated him immediately. He hated the calm in his voice. Hated the fact that Raphael never needed to shout, to make a threat sound real. Hated that the man could wound him with a sentence, and not even raise his pulse. But what Soren hated most was that Raphael saw too much. He noticed things no one should have cared about. He noticed Soren flinched more at quiet than at anger. Not because quiet was gentler, but because quiet usually came right before a worse kind of cruelty. He noticed Soren always apologized when servants entered the room, as if he expected to be in someone's way. He noticed that Soren never touched anything expensive, unless invited, even after the invitations became routine. Days turned into weeks. The city learned the story the families wanted told. The Vale alliance had survived its tragedy. The marriage had gone forward. Peace remained intact. Inside the estate, however, peace never truly existed. Raphael could be cutting in 100 little ways. At dinner, he would say, Lucian hated bitter wine. You don't. Or, he would have lied prettier than you. Or on the worst nights, you wear his place like it hurts. Good, it should. And each time, Soren would feel that old familiar humiliation rise in his throat. He wasn't stupid. He knew what he was here. A substitute. A body fitted into an empty outline. A family apology dressed as a husband. But the cruelty became harder to survive because it began to mix with other things. Raphael was possessive. If another man stood too close to Soren at a dinner party, Raphael would appear at his shoulder moments later, one hand settling at the back of Soren's neck, with lazy ownership. If Soren skipped meals, Raphael noticed. If he came back from the gardens with dirt on his sleeves, Raphael noticed. If he stayed silent too long, Raphael noticed that too. One rainy evening, after a tense dinner with Raphael's advisors, Soren finally snapped. What exactly do you want from me? He demanded, standing in the middle of Raphael's study with rainwater still on his coat. Do you want Lucian's shadow? Do you want obedience? Do you just enjoy watching me try and fail to be a dead man? Raphael closed the file in his hand. You think this is about him? It is about him, Soren shot back. Everything in this house is about him. Your silence, your temper, that ring. The room, the way you look at me, like I'm almost something you wanted, and not quite enough to satisfy you. Raphael's eyes darkened. Soren laughed bitterly. There, that look. Tell me I'm wrong. Raphael was quiet for so long that Soren's chest began to ache. Finally, Raphael said, At first, I kept you because you were what remained. The honesty was brutal. Soren went still. Raphael crossed the room slowly. But that stopped being true a long time ago. Did it? Soren's voice came out thin and sharp. If Lucian had walked back through that gate alive a week after our wedding, would you have ever looked at me twice? Raphael didn't answer. He didn't need to. Soren turned away before the silence could break him open in front of him. The truth arrived not through confession, but through blood. A shipment was intercepted. One of Raphael's safe houses was exposed. 2 men died in an ambush that should never have been possible. Raphael's world, always controlled, started showing cracks. Soren recognized the pattern. Lucian's pattern. He had seen it before. The same careful sabotage. The same elegant cruelty. The same delight in chaos, so long as someone else drowned in it first. Soren went cold. He started digging quietly, searching through old contacts, memories, and one locked drawer in the desk Lucian had once used at the Vale estate. What he found there turned his stomach. Bank records, coded correspondence, payments to a third syndicate, and one short note in Lucian's handwriting. If this fails, they'll send Soren. They always do. Soren read the line 3 times before the words became real. He had not been an emergency solution. He had been part of the plan, Lucien had known exactly what would happen if he vanished. He had counted on Soren being the one left behind to carry the consequences. That night, Soren walked into Raphael's study and placed the papers on the desk. Raphael read them in silence. When he finished, he looked up, and for the first time since Soren had known him, his control looked genuinely strained. "You knew," Raphael said. "I suspected," Soren answered. "Now I know." Raphael's jaw tightened. "He used you as a shield." Soren laughed, and it sounded ugly. "That's a gentle word for it." He waited for Raphael to say something sharp, something strategic, something cold. Instead, Raphael asked quietly, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Soren stared at him. Then all the hurt he had swallowed for weeks rose at once. "Because I was busy surviving the humiliation of being sent here in a dead man's place," he said. "Because every time I looked at you, I couldn't tell whether you saw me or the memory of someone else. Because I didn't know if exposing Lucien would save me, or just remind you that I was never the man you wanted." Raphael stepped around the desk. Soren backed away immediately. That made something flicker across Raphael's face. Anger, but not at him, at himself. "I never wanted you afraid of me," Raphael said. Soren smiled without humor. "That was careless of you. You gave me every reason." 3 days later, Lucien returned. Alive, immaculate, wearing a charcoal suit, and the same beautiful smile that had fooled half the city for years. He entered the DeLuca estate, like a man arriving late to his own celebration. Soren was in the great hall when he saw him. For a second, his body forgot how to move. Lucien's gaze slid over him, over the ring, over the house, and then settled into amusement. "Well," he said lightly, "you do clean up nicely." Soren had imagined this moment 100 different ways. In none of them did he feel this calm. "You should have stayed dead," Soren said. Lucien sighed, still dramatic. "I always liked that about you." Raphael appeared then, descending the staircase with the slow menace of a coming storm. Lucien turned toward him, smile sharpening. "I assume you're ready to correct the inconvenience." Raphael stopped beside Soren. "Inconvenience," he repeated. Lucien's expression barely shifted. "The substitution, it was clever, really. My family kept the alliance warm. Your family kept its pride. And now that I'm here, you think this is your place to reclaim?" Raphael asked. For the first time, a crack appeared in Lucien's confidence. "This was always my place." Raphael's hand closed around Soren's wrist. Not painfully, decisively. "No," he said. "It was the place your family built for you. Then you abandoned it. What stands beside me now is mine, because I chose to keep him." Lucien laughed once. "Him? Soren? He was useful because he could resemble me in the right lighting. You can't seriously prefer the copy." The insult landed exactly where Lucien intended. Soren felt it. But before he could speak, Raphael's grip on his wrist tightened, and his voice dropped to something lethal. "He is not your copy," Raphael said. "He is the man you tried to bury under your name." The room went silent. Lucien's smile vanished. Raphael stepped forward, pulling Soren with him until they stood side by side. Not master and substitute, not captor and offering, but something harder and clearer than that. "You thought he was expendable," Raphael said. "You thought I would return to the original bargain the moment you reappeared. You thought wrong." Soren looked at Lucien then, really looked at him, and something old and painful finally died inside him. All his life, he had been the one left behind to tidy Lucien's disasters, the one expected to bend, the one expected to understand. "Not anymore." "You used me," Soren said, his voice steady. "You let them dress me in your death and send me to a man you thought would break me. And the worst part is, you never even doubted I'd survive it, because surviving what others do to me was the only talent this family ever allowed me." Lucien's face hardened. "Don't act wounded now. You always wanted to be seen." Soren smiled faintly. "Yes, but not like this." Then he took off Lucien's old ring. For a breath, the whole hall seemed to freeze. Soren set the ring on the table beside him. "I would rather be hated as myself," he said, looking first at Lucien and then at Raphael. "Then touched because I remind someone of you." That was the moment everything became choice. Raphael looked at the ring. Then, without taking his eyes off Soren, he reached into his coat pocket and drew out another band. Plain black gold, heavy and clean. Not Lucien's. "New. I should have done this first," Raphael said. And before the watching eyes of both families, he took Soren's hand and slid the new ring onto his finger. "This one," Raphael said quietly, "belongs only where I place it." Soren's breath caught. Lucien stepped forward. Furious now. "You'd burn an alliance for him?" Raphael finally looked at him. "Yes." What followed was swift and ugly, in the way mafia endings often are. Lucian's third syndicate allies were already known. Raphael moved first. The Vale family, stripped of its illusions, could do nothing but watch the structure they had built around their golden sun collapse. By dawn, Lucian was gone again, this time not as a prince escaping consequence, but as a hunted man with nowhere left to charm his way into safety. And Soren, for the first time in his life, he was not left standing in someone else's shadow. A week later, he stood on the balcony of the DeLuca estate in plain clothes, the morning air cool against his skin. The city spread beyond the hills, gray and glittering. Raphael came to stand beside him. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then Soren said, "I hated you when I got here." Soren leaned forward first. When Raphael kissed him, there was no ghost standing between them. No dead man's shadow, no borrowed future, no substitute, just Soren, chosen at last,